Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Veterinary Roundtable, the podcast where we answer your veterinary-related questions while having some fun along the way. If you enjoyed today's episode or a previous episode, be sure to leave us a review on your podcast provider of choice. And if you have any feedback to offer to improve the Veterinary Roundtable, let us know. Speaking of reviews.
Okay. Okay, we are up a little bit. We are at 257 on Spotify. Last week we were at 256. So that one person, thank you. And then on Apple Podcasts, we're now at 105, and we were at 103 last week. Woo! We are still working on those videos that we've discussed.
Yes.
So
they're going to be soon.
Yes.
We really need to narrow that down
do.
because
I think we already decided.
Down.
We
We
are,
just
no,
need to
like
figure
the
out like
timeline.
time and place.
Oh,
The
timeline.
people waited so long for it, and
We
we're
gotta
still
get-
leaving them
yeah,
hanging.
You guys got to get in.
It's a little disappointing, actually, on our part.
We've got to get it done.
We're slacking.
We do.
yeah, we really do.
Like,
I would be disappointed in us.
it's on the meeting agenda.
Tonight in the meeting.
It's
we
in the
need to
meeting
discuss-
agenda for tonight.
Yes.
We're doing the best that we can with
Well, we
what
really haven't talked
have.
about
We have busy lives.
I don't know if
Okay.
that's true.
Speaking-
Okay.
I agree.
Speaking of reviews,
I could say I'm bringing 110% every time I can.
Okay.
Speaking
okay.
of reviews, we have a new review from a LVT in Michigan. It says, I love listening to your podcast on my way to and from work, walking my dogs, cleaning my house, etc. It's very informative, but not boring. I love the mix of information and just everyday real life and stories. Thanks for keeping it real. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's
Thank you.
good. We're
That-
not boring.
yes,
That's always that's key.
That's a
I
fear.
love we
clutch.
keep it
It's
keep
definitely a
it
fear.
fun.
Nobody
I-
listens to a boring podcast.
And of course, check out our new social media channels at the Veterinary Roundtable on Instagram and TikTok for more content.
That's right.
And if you don't want to be seen as anonymous,
Well, that doesn't.
doesn't
Okay, sure.
apply.
We're gonna do
All
that
right.
now.
Oh, we're skipping
Are
that.
we am I
Nope,
doing
we're gonna
it?
do it
No,
now.
we'll do it. We're
Okay,
gonna,
am I-
no, we
no,
don't
do
need
it
to
now.
do it now. We can do it later.
Do it now. We've
Do it
already
now.
started
King
it.
has
Okay.
her own agenda.
Okay. Okay.
Never
Since
mind.
when do you
Um,
the itinerary?
I got yelled at
Yeah.
at the beginning of the
Um,
podcast. Follow the
Speaking
itinerary.
of slacking, I am also slacking because I still haven't made my video with a little tutorial if people are having problems. But our text messaging service is still great, still there. When you go to click on our podcast, it's at the top of the page. It says, click this link to send us a text message. Send us whatever you like. We'll read it if you want. And then if you'd like to be mentioned or get a shout out, you'll put your name. Otherwise, it says anonymous.
Boom.
Boom. Excellent.
Word.
Reach.
Alrighty.
Okay. Now for the fun part.
Who are you?
No, but who are we?
Oh,
If they're new here,
If you're
Hi.
new here,
If you're new here, I'm Dr. Ashlyn Duckwall.
I'm Devin Fortune.
I'm Courtney Allen.
I'm Dr. Emily King.
Welcome
Welcome.
to the
Nice to
Veterinary
meet you all.
Roundtable. Nice to meet you. Okay.
We're
Doc-
very excited.
We're very excited to be
Okay.
here.
Okay, we have a guest. You probably, if you're watching it, are probably like, who is this girl on the screen? Woman,
She doesn't
doctor.
pop up until we introduce her.
Oh, she
They
doesn't?
can't see her until she starts talking.
Okay, well, there's a woman on the screen.
You're gonna see
There's
her.
a
You're
woman
gonna
on
see a
the
new
screen.
face.
Okay,
We can
special
see what you-
guest.
yeah, okay.
Continue.
Oh, Dr. McCauley is a practicing small animal veterinarian who has always been deeply passionate about caring for those around her. Through her veterinary studies in Scotland, she has given opportunities to learn from incredible veterinarians around her. Seeing the immense value in their stories, she sought a way to share these opportunities with her colleagues. Thus, the podcast, So You're a Vet. Now What? Was created. As Dr. McCauley transitioned from student to doctor, she began to focus on the role these stories have in veterinary medicine and how storytelling can improve outcomes for clients and patients. Each episode takes its listeners around the world to hear from inspiring veterinarians as they face exciting and challenging situations in their jobs, and teaches veterinary students and veterinarians how to become confident and engaging storytellers. Please welcome Dr. McCauley to the Veterinary Roundtable. We did it. We got there.
Yeah, we finally got there.
We got there. A fellow podcaster.
I know
fellow
this
podcaster.
is kind of strange, honestly, for me to be on the guest side of the table, but I like it. This is nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it less pressure? What does it feel like over there?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
tell
I
us.
feel like there's definitely a level, like obviously being on your podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I good enough to be here? Like, a little bit of imposter syndrome happening, but at the same time, I feel like I am among a whole group of like-minded individuals. And I mean, sometimes on my podcast, like we just get up to shenanigans, and I know you guys get up to crazy stuff. So I am
As you've
so
seen.
looking forward to
Right.
this. I'm here for the party. This is going to be great.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going to have such a good time.
It's a
We're
body.
going to cut off at 2 hours, probably.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. Exactly. Oh, my gosh. Well, hey, start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of how you ended up falling into the podcast.
Falling into the podcast. That is actually a really good way of putting it in so many different ways. So yes, I am a small animal general practitioner working on the East Coast. And my story actually starts way, way back in Scotland because I went to the University of Edinburgh. That's where I graduated from. And while I was there, I kind of got into a little bit of like a video editing, vlogging style. It was a very short-lived time of my life. But it was doing interviews with my professors. I just really enjoyed it. It was fun. And from that, I had one of my like mentors come to me and be like, "Hey, you got this thing that you're doing. Do you want money to keep on doing it?" There turns out there was a grant available for this like student professor partnership I don't know what it was called exactly. And I looked at it and I went, "Huh. I've always wanted to start a podcast." And then I asked him, "So when's the proposal due?" And he's like, "Tomorrow." And I was like, that's funny. So I absolutely just like crammed something out, sent it in thinking, I'm never going to get this. Sure enough, I got the grant. And that allowed me to get the podcasting equipment that I needed to just start. And from there, I started recording with anybody that I could find. And this was my friends. These were my professors. This is back in the early days of Vetstagram, like way back in the day, where there weren't many of us on Instagram. And so here I am, this little vet student DMing people being like, "Okay, put yourself together. Hi, I'm Moriah. I'm a vet student. I have a podcast. Would you be a guest on it?" And people, of course, are like, "Oh, little vet student, of course I'll be on your podcast." And from that, it just kept growing and growing. And I ended up doing like a mini series through my final year of vet school with my roommate at the time. And it just kept going and going and going. And then, of course, I graduate and I'm like, "Oh, now what do I do?" And thankfully, I was able to join forces with one of my mentors, Dr. Dave Nickel, who has his own set of podcasts. And he kind of brought me on board. And I am so grateful for this relationship because it has allowed me to continue to tell stories, which is so, so fun. And so the podcast started out in a completely different name. And it was actually called That Vet Life at the time. And over the years, it has transitioned. And now it is called So You're a Vet. Now What? And it's targeted towards vet students and early career veterinarians. And we're basically looking at all those big questions that you have within that first year of practice, from like, where do I find a mentor? What does mentorship look like? What do I do when that client made me cry? All the way through what we're looking at right now, which is how to handle clinical cases. So not so much the medicine side of it, but the communication side is what we try and focus on a bit more. So less of a here's the dose and here's the drug, but here is, how do you talk through this crazy case that you have with the client? How do you break it down in a way that they understand? And how do you set them up for success so that they know, when do they need to come back for a recheck? What are the expectations? How do you ask, what are your goals for your patient, so that you can develop that relationship and really hone down on the things that vet school doesn't teach us. Like, there's just not enough time, quite honestly, to teach all the things. So that's the area that the podcast is filling out right now. And I love the journey that we're on. And I mean, I've had Emily on the podcast, and that was so much fun. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how much I love that episode. And I just am looking forward to where the podcast is going from there. So I think I answered your question. I may have bunny trailed.
Yes.
That's
here we
awesome.
are.
That was
beautiful.
That was awesome.
That was
very
good.
well
I
used.
mean, I think we got like 1 or 2 classes in vet school on communication, and it's still not like, you can extrapolate some of that information and apply it, but until you're in the real world, like, as you know, like, it's just a different,
Whole new, different ball
it's
game.
just a different life. Yeah, it really is. Okay, so how is Scotland? Because I've always wanted to go so badly. Oh, is it just perfect in every way?
What if she says no? Is she going to crush all your dreams?
No, I'll still go, but I still want to know everything about it.
Basically, I would say part of my heart still lives in Scotland. Every single day I miss it. I think about going back there and just all my adventures that I've had when I was there. But I would not say that it is picture perfect every single day of the year. I would say from about October, November through March, and granted, people who are in Scotland might bash me for saying this, but it is cold, it is dark, it is rainy. If you have seasonal affective, don't go there during that time of year, because like I remember being in vet school and like you would get on the bus and it's dark. And then you get off you leave the vet school in the afternoon. It's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's getting dark. And so it's just pitch black during that time of year. Well, not pitch black. I'm over exaggerating it, but it's very cold. It's very wet during that time of year. However, for someone like myself, like I still love that type of weather. But it also means that when you go from March and through about now, even, which right now when we're recording is in September, it is gorgeous. The weather is perfect.
So we got to go now.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to go.
Sorry, bye. We have to catch a plane. Honestly, if you guys want to go to Scotland, you want me to help like tour you around, sign me up. I'm there. Just pay for my flight.
Oh my gosh.
Podcast on the go.
Podcast in Scotland.
I would die if that happened. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I love it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Part of my heart lives there. If it wasn't for the disparity between what you get paid there versus what you get paid in the States and my student loans, I might have stayed over there like a lot of my classmates to work. But here we are back in the States.
So did you have 4 years at that vet school?
Yep. So Edinburgh is an AVMA accredited school. And so similar to RVC, which is in London, basically meaning that if you have a 4-year undergrad degree, you can go to their vet school for 4 years, just like you would in the States. There is a 5-year program. And this is something that is very similar across pretty much all the UK vet schools. And this is for think about like coming straight out of high school. You would do high school, maybe you do a gap year, and then you do their 5-year, it's a bachelor's for veterinary medicine and surgery that you would do there. So you're kind of skipping out on the 4 years of undergrad, which we could go into the whole thing about pros and cons of that. And I'm ready for it, but I also understand you guys have an itinerary. So keep me on track.
That would be an interesting podcast. That's for sure.
Fascinating.
A lot of growth development in those undergrad
I'm
years.
telling you. We don't have to relive those years.
Okay, one last question about Scotland. Do you watch Outlander?
I did at one point, yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Did you finish Outlander?
We're best friends.
What is Outlander?
I don't want it to end. I have this thing where if I get super hooked to a show, I'm going to really drag my feet to go into the last seasons because I don't want it to
What
end.
season are you in Outlander? Aren't there like 8?
There's 8 now.
Or something like that?
I don't know.
I think I stopped watching after season 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped after 5 or
Scotland
6.
on a map.
Like I haven't watched the latest like 2 or 3. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't want it to end. I get that. I'm looking
I mean,
up
if you go to
Scotland on a map.
Scotland, you might just see Sam Hewen. You might. He goes to Edinburgh quite frequently.
Another reason she's going to go.
Don't tell my husband, but we got to go. I got to go meet him.
None of you know this, but she's on her phone right now, like trying to search flights.
I'm actually looking at Scotland on a map. It's pretty north.
Yes.
I didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
the
it's pretty
other
high
months sound like
latitude-wise.
Indiana, so
Well,
sounds like we'd be right at home.
True.
Just
That's
not dark
true.
at 3 p.m. Okay. Should we go into the next segment? So we do pits and peaks, basically from the last week, but you can do whenever you want of just what the peak and the pit was.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go first, or one of us will go first, and then you can jump in just so you can get your feet wet.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
I can go. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll start with my pit. No, I'll start with my peak. My peak is that my dad spontaneously asked me to go to the Purdue and Notre Dame game this weekend.
Oh,
fun.
So driving up
Oh,
to
that's
Lafayette
fun.
on Saturday, and we're gonna see the game.
That'd be
I'm rooting
awesome.
for Purdue.
Good.
And then my pit is that my lovely husband is going to Florida this weekend without me.
Oh.
And I'm excited for him, but I'm also really upset with him.
Was that
He's going to
spontaneous?
Jacksonville to see his best friend, and they're going to see the Browns game without me. So he's
Was
going
it,
to a
like,
Browns
spur of
game.
the moment, or you just weren't invited?
They just wanted a boys' weekend, but they
Oh.
kind of like it was a last minute plan kind of thing. Jacob was just like, "Hey, I bought plane tickets." I was like, And I'm not going. But it's okay. They need boy time. They don't. We see him like once a year because he stayed here, or he went to school here and then moved to Florida.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen him in a year. So it'll be fun for them. I really am jealous.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the Browns play. But that's okay.
You will.
He'll have fun.
You know you
It's
will.
just the start of the season.
Yeah. He'll have
good.
fun. So
Okay.
I'll go. My peak, you guys have already heard it a million times, but it's officially my birthday week.
Yes.
And I'm super excited because I'm
Party.
turning 21. So I'm just thrilled. And then my pit is silly, but this morning when I was driving to work, it's dark in my car. It's dark outside. I can't see what I'm doing. I got out my chapstick. It's my favorite chapstick. And my lid goes flying to my chapstick. And I've learned with my new car, it's really hard to find things once they fall down in between my seats. And I can't find my lid. So now my chapstick, my favorite chapstick, is just sitting in my car, melting away with no lid on, and I don't know what to do because I have to keep the chapstick.
Just put a little like
Can you-
aluminum foil on top.
Can you buy a new one? No, I can't find this chapstick.
No,
anywhere.
listen.
what kind of chapstick is it?
Buy a crappy chapstick
No.
and take that lid, throw it away, and put that lid on your good
yeah.
chapstick.
That is
What's
brilliant.
the
That's
chapstick?
and then
Pay
put
me the big
aluminum
dollars
foil on
for
the
'em.
crappy one.
It's Burt's Bees unscented, but I can only ever find like a super thin ultra conditioning unscented. It's like still the thick formula. It's
Did
amazing.
you look
Sounds expensive.
It's so
Did
nice.
you look on Amazon? Because Amazon has everything.
No.
Well,
Your stories make me laugh.
Okay, Dr.
I'm
McCauley,
glad.
you go.
That's
What are
the
your
pit of my
pits
week.
and peaks?
Let's see. My peak, I guess it was a little over a week ago, but I ran my 4th half marathon.
Woo, that's awesome.
And I got my PR, which I was really
Nice.
going
That's
for.
amazing.
So that was a really nice peak. My body hurts so
I can't imagine.
so
Yeah.
much after that. I did not stretch well afterwards. That's my own fault. And my pit was actually related to one of my patients that I had, where I had done surgery on their other like geriatric dog. She was doing great and awesome, and then I diagnosed their young 3-year-old Labrador with Lyme nephritis, and she passed.
Oh,
so
gosh.
that was
I'm sorry.
that was a pit.
That's
Yeah.
definitely
I'm
a pit.
sorry.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Especially when they're
It was
young.
like-
I mean, it's never easy, but when they're
Gosh,
that
that
young.
poor family.
Yeah, and it was
crazy.
so bad, like so hard because like we were celebrating that their senior
Mhm.
dog was doing so well.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was like a 2.5 pound mass off of a 20-pound dog that I did.
Oh my gosh.
And literally 10 minutes after surgery, she's trotting around. I'm like, you are 14, ma'am. Like, what are you doing? And they wrote this awesome review. And then
Oh.
literally 5 days later, I'm having to walk them through saying goodbye to their other dogs. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's hard.
Such a rough turn.
But-
of events.
That's the
Yeah.
epitome of a roller coaster in vet med, I feel
Yep.
like. You have like 1
Yeah.
or 2 hours of that, just like you're feeling great, doing great, and
You're like-
then you walk into
Turn the
euthanasia
switch.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flipping a switch.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is.
Euthanasia
sorry.
at a puppy visit.
Mhm.
For sure. For sure.
I would say I've thought about it all day because I was like, I feel like I'm bad at pit and peaks. My pit and peak go hand in hand. My little baby girl is growing up so fast in front of my eyes, and she's starting to say more words, which I love. She like looked at me. She was sitting on the couch earlier, and she just says, "Dog, please." And she wanted her stuffed dog, and I said, "Okay, stay right there." And she goes, right there. And she doesn't move. And then I go in the other room, I get it, I come back, and she's just sitting there waiting. It was like just the cutest thing. It was like little stuff like that.
It's
Where
crazy
she, like-
watching her.
Yeah, she just copies what I do, or I'm like, okay, let's close the cabinet, sleeping, all done. And she goes, it's just, and then my husband was traveling today, and I was like, Dada's working. She goes, it's just like stuff like that. And then the pit of it is like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
stop growing up so fast, stop saying no.
Yeah.
So it's hand in hand. But that was like today, I was like, you're just learning so much so quickly.
Mhm.
So
She's gonna be so smart.
yeah.
So
She's
cute.
a smart baby.
I know. It
Why.
goes by fast. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I would say my peak was we started preseason basketball. So that train has left the station. We're
Mhm.
on it.
Choo choo.
And,
You're gonna win a national championship.
no. we had
Wow.
we had the conversation that you can't care more than the kids you're coaching,
Okay, that's a good conversation to have. Good reminder for
because
the
you could get
adults.
really upset if you're too in, you know what I mean? Like they have different objectives
Yeah.
than
Well, then it would
what,
ruin the fun,
and, like,
wouldn't
and
it?
it fluctuates from year to year. Like sometimes you have people who are like, I'm going to play Division I basketball. And then you have other people like right now,
Yeah.
who are like, I'm playing for fun.
Yeah.
And so you just have to shift your mindset.
It's that awkward
because-
stage, just like high school. It's awkward.
Which is great. It doesn't matter to me. I just need to know which train you're on so I know which attitude I'm supposed to bring.
Yes.
So, so it's fun. I'm
Okay.
excited. So preseason started.
Nice.
Yay.
Pit wise, I'm trying to think of a pit that something I complained about probably. Let's think.
That they're just in it for the fun.
What'd you say?
That they're just in it for the fun this season.
Right? Yeah, exactly. They're just in it for the fun. I was thinking about Calvin because I haven't mentioned him and his homeschooling.
Oh.
And
I saw him the other day. Where did I see him?
and he has asked about being on the podcast.
He
I
was at the
did tell
clinic.
him that in our meeting today we would determine a time
Yes.
for him to be
I'll
on the
scribble
podcast.
that in.
Okay.
However, he's taking a social etiquette class
Oh, dear.
through this program called Wisdom Builders. And so he was like, I always ask him, he goes Monday, Tuesdays. Anyway, I won't go through the whole thing of the schedule. But anyway, on Mondays, he goes to the social etiquette class for an hour. And they teach you all kinds of things, like, how to shake hands, how to da-da-da, and how to da-da-da, all kinds of really good things. And so he was like, I was like, what did you learn today? And he was like, we learned how to shake hands. And I was like, well, okay, that's a good thing. I don't think you really shake hands all that well.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I do. I know how to shake hands. And I was like, show me. And then
Did he spit?
no, he didn't
Oh.
spit. Thank God. No, but that would have been good. No, he was like, didn't shake my hand firmly. And I was like, that is why you're in the class. You need to learn how to shake hands.
Oh my
I think adults need
goodness.
it too.
That was the
sometimes.
big thing with my dad. Like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
engraved that into Zach and I's brains. Like, and the first time Jacob shook hands with him, I thought I was never going to see Jacob again.
Oh, God.
Because that's a big thing with my dad,
Yeah.
is a good handshake. It's
Yep.
very important. Like,
Interesting.
because when people, like, I have a firm handshake because my dad, and when I handshake people, and they're like, it's like a limp fish in your hand.
Yep.
Like, that's not a
Got to
handshake.
look him in the eye.
Yeah. Do you remember the book that we read? I think it was with the doctor group where we were talking about handshaking, and it's like a form of like agreement. And if you don't shake hands, you're like, whoa, is this person like,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember that?
Wasn't that the most recent one we did?
I don't remember. Anyway,
We've
Next
read
time
a
I
lot
see
of
Calvin,
books.
I'm going to shake
I
his
don't know
hand.
if
it
you
made
like
me
books,
think
but-
when you said your dad like really like
Yeah, that was a
was
big
like
thing.
shaking hands, because
Yeah.
when you make a deal with somebody but you don't shake their hand, it doesn't feel as like
Yeah.
official or like
It's
you
not
shake their
like,
hand.
bam, stamp of approval.
Anyway.
I'm not that passionate about handshakes.
You're what?
I
You
said,
will
I'm
be
not-
now.
I'm not that passionate about handshakes.
What's
I don't really
what's your
shake
vibe
people's
on
hands.
Shake my
handshakes?
hand. See, that's a bad handshake.
I feel like that was a good handshake. You were.
I didn't do it on
fish.
because I wanted to see how you grab my hand. You like, it's supposed to be firm.
I feel like this is firm. No,
You got to do the double hand. That's what my dad
that
does.
not
Grab
fun?
on each side. And just, how you doing? Like
Dr.
brother.
McCauley, what's your feeling on
it's
handshakes?
like raspness. Yeah.
Ooh, my feeling on handshakes. I'm gonna circle around with this a little bit, because for those of us who've gone through COVID, remember the
Mm.
time where it was like, don't shake anybody's hand?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like people fell out of practice of how to shake hands. So as you're talking about your dad and like instilling that in you, I'm like, man, there's so many people that forgot how to shake a hand. Because now I have clients that come in and they like definitely want to shake a hand, and I try and match whatever that person
Yes.
brings as far as handshakes. Granted, if they're like a little limp fish, I'm like trying to be something of like a firm handshake without crushing their hand.
Mhm.
Yes.
But there's definitely a number of clients that you can tell they're like, do I shake your hand? Do I not? And that was more apparent after we started, like in my practice, we had clients out of the building for a period of time, and then we started letting them back in. And in that reintroduction phase, people forgot how to shake
Yeah.
hands. It was really funny.
Yeah.
But my personal stance right now is like, I may not always initiate the handshake, but if someone else does, I try and match the presence that they bring.
That's good.
Match, if not exceed.
That's
I
right.
like it.
And fascinating.
Okay, I
Match
gotta
but
ask,
not-
who is that
like,
sweet
never shake
dog
hands.
in your corner over there? Because I keep seeing a head pop up, and I need to know who also is
Oh.
with us.
He's actually on his bed right now, but he's my puppy. He's not really a puppy anymore, but his name's Pippin.
Oh.
Pippin.
And he's a field-bred English Springer Spaniel.
Oh, they're so cute.
Yes, he's being quiet and being good right now, so I'm not going to invite
good
him
boy.
into the
Okay.
frame.
I just see his cute little head pop up every once in a while. I'm like distracted by the dog in the
Yes.
background.
He's cute.
You're in the right group of
That's
people.
right.
Lennox.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Trending veterinary topics. Today we're talking about the federal court blocking the FTC rule on non-compete agreements.
Oh boy.
Yeah, right? Oh boy's right.
Mm.
Yeah. So, okay, do you want me to
Take it away with
Yeah,
your...
you've got papers.
Well,
up
I
there.
printed the paper because I didn't want to have this like committed to memory. But basically what happened is a federal district court in Texas on August 20th blocked implementation of the Federal Trade Commission's recent final rule banning most non-compete agreements.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what happened.
I saw that it wasn't just vet med related. It was with most.
Oh, it's everything.
Most
Yeah, it's
professions.
I mean, there are a few exceptions,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but I think it's with everything.
So basically, you just can't have a non-compete. That's what it's saying. Pretty
no,
much.
they blocked
You can have a non-compete.
They blocked.
the
Oh.
ban.
You can have a non-compete.
Oh, that's not what I got.
Oh.
I got that like non-competes were
There's a lot
not
of double
allowed
negatives
anymore.
in this. Okay.
know what I
Okay,
mean?
Dr. McCauley, what's your take on the federal district court in Texas?
Oh, do you want the long version or the short version?
Short version. Let's do short version.
Short version is I think they were not thinking about veterinary medicine at all when they made this decision. And so
Like usual. Sorry.
yeah. So that kind of plays into a lot of it. It's like we could be like, oh my goodness, this is so bad for veterinary medicine and blah, 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 blah. But also like they didn't even think about us when they made the decision. So
Well, and the decision means that the just to clear this up, the confusion, the decision means that the FTC cannot enforce the ban on non-competes.
Got it.
They cannot enforce the ban on non-competes, which means
You can
you can
still
have
them.
non-competes.
you can
Yes.
still have them.
Words.
I think there's different. I know, right? It's like I have to read it
Let's see
15
how
times.
Yeah,
Alex, you
now
can
I
make
get
it.
it. I understand now.
Right.
Well, that's
And that
silly.
was set to go in effect on September 4th.
Okay, so if they want to play that game, just put a non-compete for a half a mile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
don't know
I
what
feel
the
like that's
current-
missing the point.
I've been
But if you're trying to get around it and it's a whole problem that they're not enforcing the ban.
no, you're missing the employee isn't the one who establishes the non-compete. It's the employer.
Correct.
So the employer's not going to put
So
a
it's
half
a
a mile.
benefit for the employer. I see.
It
I see.
benefits the employer.
Yeah.
So all these corporates, they're like, no, it's a 5-mile radius. But then you forget that you live in, say, like metropolitan DC,
Yeah.
where there are 25 different practices within that 5-mile radius.
Mhm.
And it takes you 30 minutes to travel that 5 miles in your car. So
Yeah.
now you must live in a completely different county in order to work outside of your non-compete.
And I think
And then don't even like we can even touch into the NDAs that
yeah.
go into this.
Yeah. And then like even the specialty, like the specialists, like think how far they have to go to be able
Well,
to
yeah.
create a living, which I think
We've talked
you
about
could sue
to
in
some
that,
are
but
like that.
then there are some people though in the veterinary community who don't necessarily disagree with non-competes, but I don't think they're in corporate world. I think that they're people that just think that non-competes serve a purpose. I don't know. I've never really, I'm like, you know what? Like if I take care of business in my own
Sure.
backyard, then I don't really,
Well, I mean,
you're going to go a mile down the road, go ahead and try. I don't think it's going to matter.
right.
If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and taking care of my employees and taking care of my patients and my clients,
Yeah, but
then
we've
it doesn't-
established you have the new and improved outlook is what people should have, right? A lot of people are probably just like, I need all my money I can possibly get, and so I need to protect it and cover my butt by putting this non-compete in
place.
Yeah, just a lot of people.
And if I may, there's the other side of it where, at least in the non-veterinary world, part of the reason they were looking at banning non-competes is they're like, oh, this will be great for the economy because
Right.
a bunch of startups will happen.
Right.
Whereas if we look at that from the veterinary community, we're thinking about a ton of private practices or starting up. And again, that comes into like, is it competition? But again, I feel like you said, like that's the old way of thinking.
Mhm.
Like, how do we shift this? But again, like they weren't thinking about veterinary medicine when they made this. It's like if we were to talk about veterinary non-competes and they put that in the limelight, I feel like it'd be a very different conversation.
What would you do with how would you do it if you owned a practice and you had
I agree with you 100%. I'm like, if it
would
didn't,
would you have them sign a non-compete?
no, because if you work for me and it didn't mesh, you're not happy, like whatever, like it doesn't. I'm of the same philosophy. It shouldn't impact my business, right? If I'm taking care of everyone or I've established what I want to establish, the clientele that I have, like, yeah, it may hurt a little if you take your clients with you or they follow you or something like that. But every practice sets up something different and provides something different, whether it's the culture, the pay, the list goes on and on. So it's just holding your guns like any other business decision. You make a decision, you're like, all right, this is what I think is best. I'm just going to move forward with it.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree. I think it's stupid.
Dr. McCauley, what would you do if you owned a clinic?
If I owned a clinic, I would not have non-competes.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, I
think as much as I would want to have a non-compete, I would try to force myself to not.
You would want the non-compete because
like
you'd be worried about.
I would be worried about people.
You'd be seeing the
pulling
bad side of people.
Or yeah, but I would probably ultimately not have a non-compete, but my gut would want to, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you also, when you're starting a business, you don't know how big it's going to be eventually down the road. But like if I had a smaller business, I'd be a little bit more probably on the side of having one. Just because if one person takes everybody, you're like, well, got to close the doors, like something like that. But ultimately, I probably wouldn't have one.
Can you update what?
Whether or not you have a non-compete? Like, can you change it every year or something like that?
You could probably, depending on how your contract's set up.
Yeah.
You could probably, most people don't budge on it. So like once it's in play, it's usually like it's a written statement in your contract.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be an employer that stopped my employees from being able to grow in their field and have other experiences, but at the same time still working for me. So
I don't want to affect their entire life by them having to find a new job like in a different county and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
You know? People leave jobs. It's
especially since COVID, right? We have a shortage, and then these non-competes don't help anything. So
it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening.
Harrison did say that they're going to fight it or whatever, or try to get it to appeal the decision. And
it's considering an appeal.
Yeah. And he also mentioned if you're a 2 veterinary practice, what if the other vet leaves and takes pretty much half or all your clientele? That's where a non-compete would be helpful.
But then you're left with the question of why did they all want to leave?
Yeah, right? That's where it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, you get into those feelings of like, is the non-compete protecting the crappy business owner? Do you know what I mean? Like the person who's not running their business correctly is is being protected by the non-compete.
Sure.
And so to your point, right, like why are they wanting to leave? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting. Interesting.
Okay, on to listener inquiries. The first one, life advice inquiry. I recently made the decision to 180 flip my career path and pursue veterinary medicine. I'm a 26-year-old male with 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree. Unfortunately, with all my education, I have to take 8 prerequisite classes prior to applying to vet school, which I am planning to spread over the course of 2 years. Do you have any advice for someone like me on what I should be looking for in job shadowing, volunteering, and working with animals over the course of the limited time that I have to gain experience with animals? Thank you. From Gabe Martinez.
Woo. Okay, first of all, welcome to the field and congratulations on making this decision. I know I've said it a lot on here, but I think it's a great idea to job shadow, intern, volunteer at a clinic, a shelter, anything just to get a good basis. Even like restraining or just being around animals. I feel like having a good basis would definitely be beneficial.
I think it'd be smart to dip your field. Yeah. Dip your toes into a little bit of everything. Yeah. If you don't know what you want, like if you're not like dead set on small animal, intern at a large animal, intern at a small animal, dip a little in exotics, dip a little in zoo medicine. I don't know.
ER.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to, I know life changes and goals change and stuff, but trying to maybe set up relationships and shadowing and volunteering in the general area where you plan to live. So, again, I know it could change, but if you think you're going to stay where you are or around where you're going to go to school, just try to branch out that way if it's reasonable. It just comes down to who you know too as well to
That's
get
what I was
you.
gonna say. Yeah.
Like it really does. I mean, I know that sounds cliche, and sometimes I feel like weird saying that. Like there shouldn't be an icky connotation to it because people are just helping people, but I think unfortunately there are situations where it can be icky. But anyway.
Well, I mean, just think about when you hire people, when you're in the hiring process, if somebody knows somebody, it's like a vouch, you know what I mean? And so I think building those relationships in the community, to your point of where you're going to be living, is huge because you're going to need to ask people to write letters of recommendation.
Yeah.
And I think the letters of recommendation are very helpful when you're applying to veterinary school.
Yep. Oh, it's huge.
Because they can speak to the things that are your strengths, things that you can bring to the industry or the field. And so having those relationships allows people to know you, to be able to write those letters of recommendation.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Dr. McCauley?
I think there's a lot to be said in spending time where you think you're going to live. And again, things could change, but looking at how small our profession is, figuring out who you know, it almost holds a lot more weight when you are looking at those letters of recommendation or looking at those job applications. And one thing I would add in is, like, obviously this person has a lot of other life experience and they're looking for more of the animal side of things. So again, like trying a little bit of everything, as you've mentioned, is a really good idea. But I'd also try and focus in on, when you're finding those experiences, looking at how do people communicate with one another? Like, how is that different from other areas that they've worked in? Because the communication styles that we need with our clients are a little bit more tailored, I would say. And being able to say that you spent time really thinking about this and honing in on this is going to carry a lot of weight when it comes to writing those applications and looking for those letters of recommendation. And that's going to set you apart when it comes to actually applying to vet school, which is a little bit outside the question that they asked. But I think that's a slant that a lot of people miss out on because they think about, I just need hours seeing practice, being with people. But if you're able to write in your applications how you have seen the communication and the relationship building side of veterinary medicine, at least if you're looking at those applications, you're going to be like, this person gets it. They are going to make a great vet, rather than someone who's like, cool, and you saw a lot of surgeries, like, okay. But someone who has the skills that's going to help them have a lasting career. Honestly.
Yeah. I'd be so curious too to know what prompted the 180, and I think honing in on that reasoning or that, I don't know, decision would be very intriguing if I was looking at a application. So,
yeah. Well, good luck.
Yeah, good luck, Gabe. Keep us posted.
That's exciting.
Go, Gabe.
Okay, next one. Hey, this is Sydney. I started listening to your podcast when I was applying for vet school last year. I'm starting vet school at Kansas State in a couple weeks. I'm so excited. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh, we should find out if she's still excited. She's there now in the throes of it.
Yeah. I had a question pop up as I was listening to the chiropractor episode, and you were talking about certain flea and tick and heartworm prevention or products developing resistance. I took an entomology class, and my professor talked about switching between different insecticide classes to help reduce resistance, since they have different ways of working on insects. I was wondering if this could also be the case for our preventions we use. Sorry for the long message, but I was super curious as to if this would actually work if customers were willing to try it out. It's a really good question.
I think customers wouldn't want to try it out, like the switching of the products. One, because of the inconvenience of doing that. So not knowing what to switch to, having to order something completely new, getting the right weight range. Do they have multiple pets? I feel like there's too much of an inconvenience there that it would stop them from wanting to do it. And then, of course, there's many people out there that have certain opinions about certain products. And so they're going to be like,
give them more opinions.
Well, yeah. And they're just going to be like, I'm not doing all of these products for whatever reasons they may have. So
One of the first things that came to my mind, we obviously favor Simparica and Simparica Trio, but if we're talking like interchanging with top line products, I don't even know if we have another product that we favor that is comparable to those that we would alternate with. You know what I mean?
Right. Like it just, you're going to lose like this one may cover this many ticks, this one covers these ticks, but this one covers more
like we don't have
species,
two comparable products that cover all the same species.
Hence the market for all options.
Yeah.
What do you think that the professor was talking about large animal? Like,
oh, that's a thing. Like where they rotate.
Right.
Yeah.
They rotate,
Dewormers
That's true,
and
'cause they do
pastures.
that.
that's what I'm thinking is maybe they were talking about that. I know that the question's been posed in small animal medicine, but I don't think that it's necessary. I know it's not been studied necessarily, but I think if you're looking at heartworm prevention, we have those macrocyclic lactones or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the same class, right? So milbemycin and ivermectin and is moxidectin a macrolactone, right? I can't remember. But they're all working the same way, right?
Right.
So then I don't know. Does that matter if they're all have the same?
It's probably the drug itself, right? Just like antibiotic resistance is the thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Is it similar? That's how I thought about it. It's the more. I mean, her question was too like.
I think you would start. The other thing is, I think you would start seeing. So, say if we take heartworm disease itself, you would start seeing heartworm positive animals. Think how many heartworm tests you do. You would start seeing heartworm positive animals if you were starting to see resistance, which is mostly occurring in the Mississippi
Valley
area, right?
Well, it's probably because we touched on how HeartGuard has resistance,
right?
Oh yeah.
So but isn't that been around the longest?
Ivermectin.
Yeah.
One of the Flarabits was the oldest, I think.
Okay.
God, that's the one we were talking about where you gave it daily, and I was like, oh my God, how did we ever do that? And you gave a tablet every single day.
That sounds like zero compliance.
Right. Can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would forget.
Yeah.
My dog would have heartworm disease.
Do you see a lot of heartworm where you are on the East Coast?
Honestly, I don't see a ton in my local area, but we do get a number of rescue dogs that are coming up from the Mississippi Basin, and they are heartworm positive. And so we are having to do treatments on them. But as far as my local area, granted, the demographics of my area mean that there is relatively high compliance with those products. So I'm not actively seeing case upon case of my local area.
It's kind of like us.
Yeah, I think that's
I think, I don't know. So it maybe you could if you had somebody, but I don't know what the point would be.
I think it's inconvenient. I wouldn't want to do that.
Switch back and
forth. I do also wonder, like, if it is coming from the large animal side of things, they do, one, they talk about the rotation, but two, they also talk about only treating high worm burdens. Yeah. So they're not just treating every single patient.
Sure,
so I think there's a different mindset and different challenges that are facing that population of animals. Whereas with a small animal, like I think you touched, like hit the nail on the head when you talked about compliance, and that one, patients and clients are not going to want, well, patients don't care, but the clients do not have the compliance to constantly switch products. But also think about us as the doctors. This is a little selfish. I get an eye twitch every time I see another Chewy request for another preventative when they've just requested it from 1-800-PET-MEDS 3 months ago. And so I would not want to write 4 different prescriptions for a preventative, it would get really all messy. Year round.
Yeah.
I would get so messy.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah. That's a great question, though.
Yeah. It is a good question.
Made us think.
Interesting question.
Okay, next one.
The consensus is no.
Yeah.
Take it away, Courtney.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I love your podcast, and it helps keep me company on my commute to and from work at my local vet clinic. Don't worry, I'm not driving right now. I'm going into my senior year of high school, and I'm planning on going to get my vet tech degree. I have a cat whose name is Twinkie, and lots of chickens. My question for you is, what is your opinion on whether I should get my bachelor's or my associates? Do vet techs with their bachelor's get paid more than those with associates? How much more do you learn from your bachelor's, or is it just general education classes? I'm not in a state that offers a bachelor's program, so it would be out-of-state tuition, but I have looked into it and am confident that I can graduate with minimal debt. You guys are awesome, and thank you for any advice you can give me. From Grace.
It's a really good question.
I have an associate's.
I will have an associate's. I would assume that bachelor or those with bachelor's degrees probably get paid a little bit more. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that I think coming out of school. I don't think it's
drastic. But...
Yeah, I would say coming out of school because they're going to have a bachelor, like a veterinary technology degree, like at Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
If you go all 4 years, you have a bachelor's of veterinary technology,
mm-hmm.
which I think is different, slightly
mm-hmm.
different in
mm-hmm.
terms of, so I think they could potentially at the start of their employment ask for more money.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that
fair.
at some point, maybe the trajectories cross in terms of, pay
mm-hmm.
potentially.
Either can get you.
Either way,
you're like able to take the VTNE.
That's what I was going to say. That's the point to making more money is passing the VTNE.
Well, okay. But my question is, are there equal opportunity for scholarships, grants, and things like that if you're going towards a bachelor's or an associate's?
There's probably more opportunity for a bachelor's.
Something to consider.
Something to consider for sure.
But if you think about it, if you do an associate's and it's 2 years, you graduate, you take the VTNE, like 2.5 years. And then if you were to do a bachelor's degree, then you still have 1.5 years before you're even able to take the VTNE. So that's kind of where money comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on your goals.
I think I pulled the veterinary technicians, the National Association of Veterinary Technicians in America. That's an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And they do this report like every 6 years or something. The last time they did the report was in 2022. And the biggest thing was that if you've passed your VTNE, you are paid on average about $3 more than a non-registered technician. So, I mean, I think no matter what, I would go to like one of the two options.
Yes.
Like go to school and get a
absolutely.
VTNE, pass your VTNE probably.
Education wise, she asked how much more do you learn with your bachelor's? I feel like it probably goes slower maybe with some more gen ed.
Probably.
But you're going to just learn general information.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think you still get the same education per se.
But then it goes back to
that
our
you need out in the
brief
field.
discussion of like that experience. Do you want that 4 years before you have to start working for the rest of your life? I don't know. Something to consider as well.
Yeah.
What do you have more like registered technicians? Do you have more assistants? What do you have in your practice?
So my practice that I'm in, we really protect the title. And so, yes, we have assistants, but we really only allow like licensed veterinary technicians to do licensed veterinary technician jobs. And so in that way, we are paying them that role. We're paying assistants a different role, and we're able to have that separation. Different practices within my state, they do not operate the same way. But as far as like differences between bachelors and associates, I'll say I'm out of my depth when it comes to really understanding the technicalities between the two of them.
I think it's just there's so many factors to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and yeah, as I think Devin or somebody mentioned, like school debt. So like if you're going to incur the school debt but not use the degree, you know what I mean? Then you could be investing that money instead. And then versus now having additional school debt.
Yeah.
So that's a factor for sure for some of them.
Let us know what you end up doing.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Great question.
But check out this. You can find this article because it has a lot of really good information in terms of some of the more common problems that technicians talk about in terms of, things that they feel challenged with. It's on the AVMA's website, and you can just look up National Association of Veterinary Technicians, and then you'll find an entire article on it. Cool. So,
alrighty,
case collections.
She got so
Our
excited.
listeners love this, so I hope you brought a case because it gets really interesting.
It's okay if you
she's like,
didn't.
"Oh crap!"
Because I
If
didn't.
you didn't, you can just join in on
Yeah.
ours because it gets.
Are we?
Well, she should talk about the Lyme nephritis case
Yeah,
because
that'd be
That's
interesting.
the one that I got.
Yeah, 'cause that's
one
a
I'm
very
learning right now.
interesting-
Let's just dive
Yeah.
right in.
that's interesting medicine.
Ooh. Okay, so backstory on this pup. She was a 3.5-year-old female spayed Labrador Retriever, and she initially presented for cystitis type signs. She was seen by another doctor in her practice, and she was just like straining to urinate a little bit more, some blood in the urine. And initially a UA was run in-house on a free catch. And yes, there was some red blood cells. Yes, there was a little bit of protein as a result of the blood. But her concentration was actually pretty normal. And so they scanned her bladder, saw that the wall was a little bit thickened. She was otherwise bouncing off the walls, doing everything very normal. So they're like, well, don't really see any indication to treat with antibiotics. Let's do like a day or two of Rimadyl and anti-inflammatory, see if that calms things down. And the owner gave 1 dose of Rimadyl it was like 2 mg per kg type of dose. And she started vomiting frank blood.
Oh.
And they're like, okay, that's weird, especially in this type of a case. And so they're like, okay, stop that. Treat you with omeprazole, sucralfate, bland, everything. Kind of like, haha, this is odd. And then we went into the holiday weekend. So we kind of lost track over that little bit of time. She came back in the following week. So the holiday was Monday. So she came in on Tuesday, or was it Wednesday? Either way, one of those days. And she saw me, and this is where things had like completely gone sideways for this pup. She pretty much stopped eating over the weekend. She had shifting leg lameness, was just really lethargic, like in the room. This, what should have been bouncing off the walls, 3-year-old Labrador was laying down. Her head was down. She was shaking, on the floor. And we're like, this is bad news bears. I was like, I need to run in-house lab work on this dog right now. And the owner was like, yep, I'm on board. I wanted to run a 4DX, which is the heartworm and Ehrlichia Lyme anaplasma in-house snap test. I knew she was going to pop up Lyme positive because she had been Lyme positive in 2023. A C6, which is this quantitative test for antibody response, was recommended to have been run, and it just didn't happen. I kind of watched the communications. It was like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then it just never happened from the client, which kind of didn't really matter in this case. But I knew she was going to be positive. So I had already planned to send out the C6, but run in-house lab work. And outside of that, on her physical exam, temperature was normal. Physical exam was pretty unremarkable, except that she did have bloody stool. Like it was obviously melena at that point. So I was like, okay, is this because you had some gastric ulceration from the Rimadyl? Like trying to put these pieces together and try and figure out, is this GI related, or is this something else related, or is this Lyme related? And so I run her lab work in-house. And in the meantime, I kind of got her set up with a little backpack of fluids and some Serenia, thinking this is maybe GI related. And when her lab work came back, she had a mild anemia, which again, I was like, okay, could still be GI with the bleeding and from everything. And then I looked at her kidney values, and her creatinine was over 11.5. BUN couldn't even read. Phosphorus couldn't even read.
Oh, man.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, Nelly. This is bad. This is bad news bears. And so I kind of went back into the owner and I was like, so she's thrown us a curveball. This is not what I was expecting to see, but we need to have a really heart-to-heart discussion about what's going on here. And granted, at this point, we still don't know 100% that this is Lyme nephritis.
Mm-hmm.
We just knew that her kidneys were toast. And so I'm looking at this dog and I'm like, you need, like, if you're going to have any hope of anything, you need to go to specialist care so that you can have 24-hour care, do a specialist ultrasound, like the whole 9 yards. And the owner is like, my husband is out of town. I've just had this miracle surgery with my other dog.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally was like, I don't know what to do. And so we had to kind of sit down and say, okay, what is step one? Like, what are your fears? What are your goals? Like, let's really talk through this and let's look at the next 24 hours. And I guess I'll stop there. Like, do you want me to go through the full case and then we can dissect it down? Or
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we sit down and we talk about this and I'm like, I know this is scary. I know this is a lot to take in. We're going to look at the first 24 hours. And so we need to refer her to the ER. I'm going to go jump on the phone and make sure that they have space to take her tonight. this is what we're looking at cost-wise, which for the first 24 hours, we're probably, like, I think for the first 72 hours, they quoted $3,000 to $5,000. And we have like all the bells and whistles kind of specialty here. And so I was like, okay, but this is just the start. We're going to get through 24 hours, and what you guys do after that, whether that's she comes back here for like I don't know, like
Sure.
care or something. I'm just trying to break down cost for them. But I was like, first 24 hours, let's get a catheter. Let's get you over to ER. We'll take it from there. We'll see what things look like in the morning. And so I touched base with the client the next day. She was like, can you please talk to the ER? Like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't understand what's going on. I need to hear your voice. Like, she was like, I need to hear your calming voice and tell me what's going on. And I'm like, I don't really know what's going on either. So, but I was like, sure, I could do that. And of course, I jump on the phone with the ER and they're like, we don't think this dog will let past the next 24 hours. And I'm like, okay. Because they were at the point where they're like, she started to have distal limb edema, petechiae. Yeah. Her clotting times are normal, but her platelets were like, so she wasn't going into DIC, but she was definitely having an inflammatory response with all of this. And her kidneys were like, I can't take this anymore. So that was where they started recommending either dialysis or other therapies, which were going to start costing up to $20,000 to do. Yeah, wow. So it's like, yay, we have the opportunity to do this in my area, but it's not financially attainable even for the majority of people. Yeah. So I kind of was able to jump on the phone with her again and be like, this is what they're saying. This is what's going on. We really need to, we're going to have to see what happens in the next 24 hours because either she's going to have a chance or we're going to have a very different conversation. And it turned out the next day, they're like, we took her home last night. We fed her a bunch of Chick-fil-A and Lap of Love is able to come today. So that was like, oh, okay. This escalated very, very quickly. But right after I got off the phone with her there, I got the C6 result back that came back at 184. So I was like, well,
yeah.
So what prompted you to do the 40X and C6 like in general, just because of her history or?
Her clinical signs, just the inappetence, the shifting leg lameness.
Yeah, okay.
And the owner was also like, I think it might be Lyme. So I was like, you know what? It's not wrong to do this. And I don't know, part of me is like, would I have not thought to do the 40X if she hadn't been as worried? I don't know. Like there was enough clinical signs to be like, oh, this could be Lyme disease, which the other part of her history is that she was on a topical flea and tick preventative. I think she was on Frontline. And I was like, part of me asked, like it was because I'd seen in the past she had been on Trio and that's what our record had shown. And I was like, oh, when did she last receive it? And what type is it? And they're like, oh, it's the type you put on her back. And I was like, gosh dang it.
Yeah.
Partly also because like if it had been Simparica Trio and she had been regular on it and it came up Lyme positive, Zoetis would have been able to cover the cost of care. And I was like, another like stab to the heart. So yeah, what prompted it was just like her clinical signs and the owner's concern for it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, once you would have run the CBC and seen the anemia and the thrombocytopenia, that probably would have triggered you as well to run the 40.
Hospitalization, right?
What did you say?
The thrombocytopenia wasn't until hospitalization at the ER.
The second day, I believe.
I did like so I don't know if you guys have had this, but like we have IDEX machines and occasionally it'll be like, oh, platelets are low. And so you automatically go and do a manual platelet count. I had made the smear. I'd already sent her over to ER by the time I had the chance to read it. So I think she already had the thrombocytopenia. I just didn't have the chance to confirm it on a manual count.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man.
Which is a public service announcement. If you ever see that, make sure you do your blood smear.
Yes. Always do a blood smear.
Yes, do a blood smear.
Do you guys see a lot of Lyme disease where you are?
Yes.
Where are you at?
It is. I'm in Virginia.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. I literally have a jar that sits on my desk that literally has a tick that the story is in my practice's social media page where I took the tick, I pulled it off a cat and I put it in a sterile urine container. I sealed it in there for like 4 weeks. The thing burst out hundreds and hundreds of eggs.
Ew.
I kept it all in there. And like 4 weeks later, they all hatched into a bunch of little larval ticks. And it fits perfectly because like this is the time of year where we have larval ticks.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like thankfully my dog is on trio, but we will go hiking every now and then and he'll come back just covered in larval ticks. And I'm like,
Remind me to never move to Virginia.
That literally makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
I have
Yes.
goosebumps.
But to be fair, like larval ticks can only carry and transmit Lyme disease if they've fed off of a Lyme positive animal. So they aren't hatched with Lyme, as far as I understand. But yeah. So ticks are horrendous this time of year all around in Virginia. So Lyme disease, yes, we see it along with a lot of like dogs will come up positive for Ehrlichia, Anaplasma all the time, but I really don't see active clinical disease. I've had one true clinical Ehrlichia in my 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So do you guys promote the Lyme vaccine then because you have it so much there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here our prevalence isn't the same. I mean, we don't have.
No, I only recommend the vaccine if they're going to
Places
East Coast
that are-
or other
yeah.
places that.
Yeah. If you come to Virginia, please get the Lyme vaccine. Please also get the leptospirosis vaccine.
Yes.
We also see
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with distemper in the local raccoon population. So
Yes.
Yes. And
all the
and
things.
I would also say that the Lyme vaccine is not a substitute for prevention.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Prevention is still
they go
your
hand
top.
in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
For sure.
Ooh.
Wow, that's
That
amazing.
was
Well, I'm
intense.
sorry.
Case.
I would have thought
Yeah.
the same thing, like with the history of like, oh, it's GI, and the Rimadyl rocked her gut. Like that's
the
what I would
one
have.
Rimadyl, geez.
Yeah.
Imme-
But like that's the thing where I was like, one dose of Rimadyl
Right.
should
Burned a
not
hole
have
in their
done
stomach.
this
Yeah.
unless her body was already on the brink
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
like collapsing.
Yeah. Man.
So in a way, I think that single dose of Rimadyl, granted the other doctor is like, feels gutted. He's like, how'd I miss this? Like all those things. And I was like, I think because you gave the Rimadyl, very rightly so, it brought her back in sooner and it
Yeah.
prompted us to look deeper. So in a way, we didn't like, it wasn't like longer time
Mhm.
passed. We were able to diagnose this sooner before the dog was like literally crashing on death's door.
yeah.
So it all played out in an appropriate way. But yeah, it sucks because
Yeah.
I don't think maybe you guys have differences, but I don't think I've seen a case of Lyme nephritis go well. Like
No,
every single
they
dog
don't. They
I've
do not
seen
go
with
well.
Lyme nephritis, they all die.
Yes.
Thankfully,
Agreed.
it's only like, well, I mean, I think the research show it's like 1%. So thankfully, it's not like that common.
Sure.
But
Mhm.
once they have it, you're toast.
Yeah.
You're toast.
Yeah.
So
It's-
it's no good.
So even if they come up with that 40X positive, I'm like, let's check a urine and then let's keep checking your
Yep.
urine. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Usually,
so
but-
if your dog is not on prevention, please put them on prevention
Yeah.
because that if I could erase one disease from veterinary medicine, I would choose Lyme nephritis.
Mm.
Like that was awful
Yeah.
to watch.
yeah.
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 Especially when you know, like, oh, I could have done, like,
We could have
we
prevented.
have
Sure.
tools to
Mhm.
keep
Yeah.
us from being in that boat. Yeah.
Wait, so what's the one or what value screams Lyme disease on a urine?
You look for
Protein
protein
loss.
loss.
Okay.
protein. Yeah.
Because in the kidneys
you're
are
looking at that-
pissed. Mhm. I didn't know if it was
Yeah.
something other than that.
Yeah. So you're looking at that USG to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that the concentration is appropriate,
Mhm.
but also you're looking for the protein that would tell us that there's a lot of inflammation.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, heavy case.
Heavy case.
It's a good case though.
Ooh.
Good reminder.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, my case is really quick. I have. Are we still going?
Yeah. Go for it.
cases? Okay, sure. I know we're going long on time. So anyway, my case is just an older terrier who had behavior aggressive issues with this family where it got to the point they came in and they're like, what do we do? Like my kids can't go near him. He'll just, bite. They got to the point where like the mom was like, stay away from him during certain times of the day. And he's just like this, I don't know, it was the one we just saw for an annual. It's like, I don't know, 12 pounds, right? But just very temperamental. So we had a very long appointment that one time. It was like a couple months ago. And I was like, okay, we can do these things or all of them or one of them or none of them. So we start with like pain. Is he in pain? Well, the dog does not tolerate oral medication whatsoever. So I said we could do Librela. That's one option. The next option is we do behavior modification medications, Prozac something, but it's an oral medication. There's no way around it. We talked about sending him to the behaviorist, but that immediately was just cut out. And then the other option is we talked about quality of life due to this like severe safety risk in the household. Even though he's a small dog, like he was,
they can
he
do
was
damage.
determined.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she took it back to her family. They elected to try the Librela. He's still here multiple months later, and I just saw him for an annual yesterday, and she's like, it made a world of a difference. He's still, I know, I thought it was amazing. Like, he still has some times, and she's like, we still can pick up like when he's about due for a shot, leave him alone, or certain times of night, obviously when he's tired and he's old, so he just doesn't want to be messed
Grumpy
with.
old man.
Yeah, but yeah.
Look at that.
I was like, oh my
interesting.
gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it
Easy
just goes
fix.
to show dogs can show pain in so many different ways. And if they feel so much better,
They're happy.
yeah,
They're much happier.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah.
it's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
That's very cool.
Cool.
Very cool. Do we want to go into more cases or should we? No. Okay, we're going to go to the next thing.
Save the
Let's
hard
move
one
on.
for
I'm
the
saving
next time.
him for
Yes.
the next one
Okay.
again. Okay.
Okay. Listener question. Hello, I have been listening to you guys for a while on Spotify now, in the shower, on my way home from work, and as of last week, as a breath of fresh air for my first year of vet school. I'm certainly overwhelmed, but I'm always happy to hear the daily ups and downs of others in the vetmed field, and getting the notification that there's another Veterinary Roundtable episode always brightens my day.
No.
This podcast has been a great way for me to learn things without my quadrillion PowerPoint notes, and I also get to have a good laugh every now and then. My question for you guys is, I have officially gone through the fear-free certification modules as part of my school, and the professors and doctors are pretty adamant about using the techniques, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I love the concept of fear-free, but also my experience in a low-cost clinic makes fear-free seem really difficult. I would say 75%-ish of the patients I have worked on would not be compliant with just fear-free techniques, and the fear-free modules recommend that if that happens, to reschedule with pre-visit pharmaceuticals that our clients either can't or simply don't want to pay for. I was originally taught at my clinic to, for example, scruff cats, which I understand isn't pleasant, but even on GABA seemed like the only way to treat some patients. Plus, we're booked out like eternally. So, do you guys have any recommendations for how to comply with fear-free techniques in not-so-perfect patients? Thanks for doing all y'all do. It's always nice to hear from you guys. At Elither.
That's a great question.
Wow.
That is a good question.
I have so many opinions.
Yeah.
There's so many up in guys.
Where do we start?
Oh my gosh.
First of all, congrats on your first year of vet school.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
I
Glad that we're able to lighten the load a little bit.
There's a lot of tools.
yes.
Okay.
Let's start there. There's
Yeah.
a lot of tools you can use to try before you ultimately either call it quits on that day or go to pharmaceuticals. There are tools out there and they're worth trying. We love that cat bag.
cat
I
wrap.
was going to say
I was
that.
just going
We
to
have
say
a
that.
cat bag. What's it
The
called?
cat wrap. Harrison, what's the name?
Cozy cat.
The
That's
cozy
what it is,
cat
yeah.
wrap. I
Cozy
can never
cat.
remember the
You
cozy
put the
part.
cat in, you zip them up, you
If you don't
Velcro
have
around
one of
their
those,
neck.
Dr.
It's
McCauley,
so
you got to get
snug.
one. They're
literally-
amazing.
It's like the tightest kitty
They
burrito
sound cool.
ever,
Yes.
and there's
And pull a
holes.
leg out.
Yeah.
There's
two legs
holes
out.
at all of the limbs, and
2 holes for each limb. If you
You
need
can
to go
get
to
to
a
a
hip or an
cysto.
actual leg.
We love it. We're jazzed.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's
The
pretty
cats
amazing.
love
It is a fantastic
well, they
tool
don't
for
love
that.
it, but
Yes.
But if we're talking about her situation, working in low cost, okay, so yes, they should have a cozy cat wrap. That would be fantastic.
E-collars go a long way.
And what?
E-collars.
E-collars.
Lidocaine cream.
Towels.
But
Cat
you
gloves.
still have to restrain the animal. It
Cat
cannot
gloves.
run away from you.
cat gloves.
Well, we still restrain them
grabbers.
fear-free.
Cat grabbers. How is any of that
Clamshell.
fear-free?
Restraining?
Well, restraining, you have to restrain them in a certain way.
Yeah, fear-free is like
Fear-free
you don't like
restraint,
fear-free is
you
not
have
really
to-
restraint.
Yeah.
Like it's not like full on.
You
Restraint.
cannot. You have to hold a cat like
Without
this on
starting.
its
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to hold its head. You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, aren't you supposed to have your hand behind their neck, just
You-
not
yes.
scruffing?
That's what we
Yes.
do. Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to hold them though. They could easily just get up and bite you.
It is difficult sometimes.
What I'm saying is, if you have a mean cat
I
in
think
a
it's
low cost
patient.
clinic,
I think it's
say-
patient dependent.
and then you have an owner who's like, "What the
That's
f?
right.
I need to get this done," and you want me to come back?
The cat
Yeah.
bag works tremendously for cat lateral restraint. It really does, because they can barely even move their neck, and then you can still put your hand on the base of their neck.
No, I think that's a great
but
tool for them.
you don't have to really worry
use.
about the rest of
The
their
animal.
body.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it literally
I
cannot
argue
move.
in that type of environment, it's kind of like fast food, right? They're trying to just get the vaccines and go. There's not really a full workup going on or full exams, right? Or am I wrong?
Correct.
Okay. So it's a very different motive there, just like rescues and shelters have different motives for spay and neutering.
Yes,
So-
I would buy that. They probably have a
Okay.
different. Yep.
What I'm getting at is maybe there are some different rules that apply. That's all I'm saying.
I think
Absolutely.
I am all for fear-free
Me
and
too,
like, of
yes.
course, trying it because I think it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. But I think it's very, very, very patient dependent. And I also think it depends on the goal of the client. So
Yes.
I think you can't approach every single patient with fear-free. It's not possible. Sometimes you just got to get stuff done and then send them on their way. And so
the goal of the client
I
is
think,
key in that
yes.
too.
I think you just do what's best for that patient in particular and then move on.
Yes.
Because you like fear-free
Without
is
causing
physically
harm
not
to the-
possible, I don't think, in every single animal we see.
I think
It's spectrum of care.
Yes.
and I think the attempt of fear-free
Yes.
always there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
think that's
100%.
Always,
Always try it.
top of mind, right?
Yes.
You try it.
And if they're
Yes.
willing to do pharmaceuticals, even better.
Well, and
Mhm.
I think that's the thing is that in our clinic, we can be like, let's do pharmaceuticals. Like we
Mhm.
can do that. So I think that makes
Yeah.
it completely different than the low cost
Yeah. Right.
clinic
Mhm.
Exactly.
scenario. Like I
Yeah.
totally get, like, how is she supposed to, how are they going to ask clients to come back?
Yeah.
They're booked out for weeks.
Yeah.
You can't I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know.
You just got to do what you got to do.
I do. I
I have
agree.
so many thoughts.
Okay,
What are
yes,
your
please
thoughts?
share.
Take it
Yeah,
away.
share.
So I think there's the first level of asking the question of what is the main goal of fear-free in these situations. And I think there's also the aspect of, okay, are they also asking the question, like, is fear-free preventing an access to care? Which I don't think that's the answer. So again, like, what is the main goal of fear-free? Is it that we are doing everything as stress-free as possible, that no animal experiences stress? Like, no, that's not accessible for anybody. But I think there are certainly levels of fear-free that you can implement in these situations that, one, doesn't inhibit the access to care, doesn't decrease compliance, but also gets the thing done. Because again, as you mentioned, in this specific scenario, like, what is the main goal for that patient and for that client? Is it that patient and that community is then safer from rabies?
Right.
and they're not going to come back any other way, then okay. We have to work through what are the different options that we have available. So I think that is something to really take in mind, because I'm kind of hearing different things as the fly on the wall, if you will, where it's like, well, we don't really need to do fear-free on this particular like patient, like we just don't have to do it. But on the other side, it's like there are levels of it that we can certainly implement. So if you have a cat bag, that's great. Even if it's just a clamshell, get that cat so that you can give that vaccine and send them on their way, because they're not going to see a veterinarian's not going to touch them again for the next 3 years of their life. So I think, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. But
No, I liked your point. I liked your point of, is fear-free preventing access to
Yeah,
care?
I really like that.
Because
Yeah.
in her scenario, that's what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what she's afraid.
Mhm.
is-
that's what she's afraid.
going to
but
happen.
I
Because
think,
she said 75%, it wouldn't be ideal.
So,
And then we're
yeah, but it
essentially
doesn't
doing
have to be
harm.
perfect.
but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
I guess
Yeah.
because I feel like you get judged if it's not perfect.
'Cause
Meaning,
there's
like,
these
if you're not,
expectations.
yeah, like if you're like, do anything like that's halfway not perfect, fear-free,
I know.
then, like you're judged
Oh
for.
my gosh.
Someone's like,
Abuse.
shame on you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
A
And I
lot
think-
of owners have this thought too, that their pet would never bite someone. My pet would never bite you or scratch you or
Yeah.
and so
They're just vocal.
the thought of that happening with their pet is probably so absurd to them that they are going to be defensive, right? Of the
Mhm.
one they love.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure.
They're like, let me hold, and then they get bit, and then you get sued.
Well,
Yep.
you can't do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
yeah. So I think that the main thing that we're all getting towards is that you can still use fear-free in this scenario. It will not look the same as
as
it will
you
in
practice,
like your
yeah.
practice or my practice, but you can still do it in a way that decreases some level of fear, anxiety, and stress in those pets, makes it more successful and safe for them as a patient, for the client, for the staff members. And again, it may not look exactly like you want it to, but if that is your main goal and that is what you target towards with every single patient that you work with, over time, you're going to find more successful methods that work with those type of patients. And as a result, you're going to have a much better outcome for the patients that you do care for. So again, like, it's like, what is your motivation behind doing this? Like, if you were like, oh, fear free is not going to work, so I'm going to throw it out the window. Like, no, don't do that.
Right.
Like, try and work towards different ways that you can implement it. And maybe one patient is like, yeah, I'm actually willing to come back with PVPs on board. Or another one is like, you know what, I am fine if you have to burrito wrap my cat, or kind of do a burrito squash to get things done. Then okay, like, have that conversation, but don't shy away from it just because you can't do it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love it.
I love it.
That's the way I was trying to say it about 5 minutes ago.
No, that's good. I think that's good advice for her. And I think that, there are tools out there like the Cozy Cat Wrap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Grab that. Buy it yourself. It's like $30.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, it's not sponsored.
It really
We're
is not.
sponsored
Oh,
by
that's
them.
a good
No,
point.
it's amazing though. I
But-
would say the pink one is most applicable to cat body sizes.
Well, they come in different colors.
And also a
Oh,
sling. We
I
love
thought the colors
sling.
were different
Sizes. No, you can get all
I
colors.
think ours
and
at
all
our
sizes.
clinic are the different colors, different sizes.
Yes, I did that on purpose.
I would say
when
the
I bought them.
medium.
Medium, you think?
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
definitely the middle.
Also, you
one
can
we
use
have.
those in small dogs.
Cozy
Yeah.
Cat
Yeah.
sponsor the Vert.
Also get a sling. We love the sling.
The sling is another
Oh.
thing. If you
Do
don't
you have
have
a sling?
do you guys have the sling?
What sling are we
Hoist
talking
them up
about?
in the
The
air.
dogs hang
Yeah,
from it
we're-
when we do
Oh
their
no,
nails.
we don't actually consider that fear free.
Well,
Well, when you're feeding them and
They
it really is
fly.
And I
nice.
love
They-
it.
It requires no restraint by a human.
Some of them really, it
some of them
totally.
like them.
It's a
Chill.
big, it's a game
There
changer.
are some dogs we only
Lila.
can touch
Helmer.
Uh-huh.
if they're in the sling. It's the weird.
Okay.
It's the weirdest
like
thing.
there's no muzzle on. Like it's not
Yeah.
like that. It's
Okay.
like they're just
hanging in the air.
pills.
They're
They're
immobilized.
big chillin'.
They don't have limbs to kick us
Okay,
with.
well, I will have to look into this.
No
now.
human
Now,
is
I could see
like,
where
you don't
somebody
have-
would think it's not fear free if you're
Yeah.
like
Sometimes
well,
you
if
have
they're
to restrain
rolling.
them.
if they're
but
rolling around.
yeah,
and doing
that's
stuff.
not. That's
If,
no.
if we get a
No.
patient up in the air and they start trying to alligator roll out of the harness,
Yeah,
We
they're
don't
down.
know, yeah.
Like
we're done.
Okay.
yeah.
They're gonna break their back, take me out with it.
Yeah.
But it's part of our like happy visits when
Yeah.
like if we have a goal to get a patient to do nail trims in the sling, it's part of our happy visits of we eventually work up to getting the harness on them and
That's
so
awesome.
anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We love
there,
it.
There are resources, for
And the
sure.
owners love the pictures of the animals
Yes,
in the
I was gonna
slings.
say, they
I've never had an owner be like, "You put my dog in the air." Like they're always like, "Can you send me that picture?"
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, to be fair, there are patients that we know, like, if you let, they're like, okay, don't do them on the table, pick them
Pick
up
'em
and
up.
hold them in the
Yeah.
air because they're like, oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
real.
That is true.
There you go.
There are ones that like to do that.
Mhm.
Be held.
Okay. Anything else, ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen?
so much for joining us.
Yeah, join us on our
thanks for
podcast.
having me.
excited
This
to
is
talk
so
to
much
you.
fun.
Let's
We
do
could
it
talk all night
again.
long.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is great.
Hey, can you tell everybody, all the listeners, where to find you?
Yeah, so You're a Vet Now What is available on pretty much every major podcasting platform. So you're looking at Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're there. You can also find me at dr.moriah.McCauley at basically on Instagram. I don't do the TikToks. Sorry, not there.
It's okay. I don't either.
But that's where you can find me on Instagram, and then you can also find the podcast on Instagram at So You're a Vet Now What, and then also on Facebook at So You're a Vet Now What. And the other plug for this is that there is a mentorship course that is available alongside this, along with the book that I didn't personally write, but definitely go and check that out. There's a whole website along with all of that too. But thank you
amazing.
so much for
Awesome.
having me, you
Cool.
guys. You're so much fun.
Thank you for
So
sharing your
happy
thoughts.
to
and
have
everything.
you.
We'll see you in Scotland.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm down
Get
for
that
it.
itinerary going.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Veterinary Roundtable. Remember, send in those questions and leave us a review if you enjoyed this episode or a previous one. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Veterinary Roundtable.